Hi there, and welcome. Thank you for being here. Today, I want to share something deeply personal. A story that might sound a lot like your own, or perhaps someone you care about. It's about what happens when you push yourself too far for too long. When exhaustion and anxiety collide. When your body wants to shut down, but your mind won't let you rest. This is my journey, from collapse to clarity. From survival to healing. From burnout to breakthrough, my journey to mental wellness. Let's begin. The weight was unbearable. Not a physical weight, though my body ached as if Atlas himself had decided to use my spine as a temporary support beam. It was the weight of exhaustion, of years spent pushing, striving, achieving, and ultimately, depleting. I was too tired to move, a complete and utter shutdown of my physical will. But simultaneously, a relentless anxiety gnawed at me, a buzzing, frantic energy that refused to let me rest. It was a cruel paradox, a torture chamber within my own mind and body. It had started subtly, as most insidious things do. A little extra work here, a skipped lunch there, just pushing through till the end of the week. Then, the weekends became less about rest and more about catching up, preparing for the next onslaught. I told myself it was temporary, a necessary sacrifice to achieve my goals. The promotion, the bigger house, the validation, they were all within reach, just a little more effort required. My name is Elara. I was, until very recently, a high-powered marketing executive, a rising star in a cutthroat industry. My days were a whirlwind of meetings, presentations, and deadlines. My nights were a blur of emails, strategy sessions, and the ever-present hum of the city outside my window. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford, replaced by caffeine and the adrenaline of constant pressure. I remember the precise moment the cracks started to show. It was a Tuesday, I think, though the days had begun to bleed into one another like watercolors in the rain. I was in a meeting, presenting a new campaign to a room full of expectant faces. I had prepared meticulously as always, but as I started to speak my mind went blank. The words, the ideas, the carefully crafted arguments, all vanished. I stood there, paralyzed, staring at the PowerPoint slides as if they were ancient hieroglyphs I couldn't decipher. I stammered, apologized, and somehow managed to stumble through the rest of the presentation. But the seed of doubt had been planted. The fear of failure, which had always been a motivator, now threatened to consume me. I started to obsess over every detail, double-checking every email, rehearsing every conversation. The anxiety intensified, a constant hum in the background of my mind, growing louder with each passing day. My physical health began to suffer. Headaches became a daily occurrence, a throbbing pain that radiated from my temples to the base of my skull. My stomach churned constantly, a knot of anxiety that refused to be untied. I lost my appetite, and the few meals I managed to choke down felt like lead in my stomach. I tried to ignore the warning signs. I told myself it was just stress, that I would feel better once the current project was over. I doubled down on my efforts, working even harder to prove myself, to silence the doubts that were now screaming in my head. Then came the insomnia. I would lie in bed for hours, my mind racing, replaying past mistakes and anticipating future failures. Sleep became a battleground, a nightly struggle against the relentless tide of anxiety. I tried everything: warm milk, meditation apps, even over-the-counter sleep aids. Nothing worked. I would finally drift off to sleep just as the first rays of dawn crept through my window, only to be jolted awake a few hours later by the shrill ring of my alarm. The exhaustion became debilitating. I dragged myself through each day, feeling like a zombie, barely able to function. My cognitive abilities deteriorated. I struggled to concentrate, to remember simple things, to make even the most basic decisions. My creativity, once my greatest asset, withered and died. My relationships suffered. I became irritable and withdrawn, snapping at my partner, neglecting my friends, isolating myself from the world. I knew I was pushing people away, but I couldn't seem to stop myself. The anxiety had built a wall around me, separating me from everyone I loved. And then, one morning, it all came crashing down. I woke up, or rather, I became conscious because I hadn't actually slept. My body felt like a lead weight, heavy and unresponsive. My mind was a swirling vortex of anxiety, fear, and self-doubt. I tried to get out of bed, but I couldn't move. My muscles refused to cooperate. I was paralyzed, trapped in my own body. Panic set in. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I lay there, helpless, as the anxiety washed over me, a tidal wave of dread. I was convinced I was dying. Eventually, after what felt like an eternity, the paralysis subsided. I managed to drag myself out of bed and stumbled to the bathroom. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the person staring back at me. My eyes were hollow and bloodshot, my skin pale and sallow. I looked like a ghost of my former self. That was the moment I knew I needed help. I called my doctor, who immediately ordered a battery of tests. The results came back normal, at least in terms of physical illness. But the doctor confirmed what I already knew. I was suffering from severe burnout and anxiety. She prescribed medication and recommended therapy. I started therapy that week. It was difficult at first. I had spent so long suppressing my emotions, pushing myself to the limit, that it was hard to open up, to be vulnerable. But slowly, gradually, I began to unravel the tangled mess of thoughts and feelings that had led me to this point. I learned about the importance of self-care, of setting boundaries, of prioritizing my mental and physical health. I started to practice mindfulness, learning to be present in the moment, to accept my thoughts and feelings without judgment. I began to exercise regularly, to eat healthier, to get enough sleep. It was a long and arduous journey, a process of rebuilding myself from the ground up. There were setbacks and relapses, days when the anxiety threatened to overwhelm me again. But I persevered, supported by my therapist, my partner, and a few close friends who had stuck by me. I realized that my relentless pursuit of success had come at a terrible price. I had sacrificed my health, my relationships, and my own well-being on the altar of achievement. I had bought into the myth that I had to be constantly productive, constantly striving, constantly proving myself. I decided to make a change, a radical change. I quit my job. It was a terrifying decision, but also liberating. I knew I couldn't go back to that toxic environment, that relentless pressure. I needed to find a new path, one that was more aligned with my values, one that allowed me to live a more balanced and fulfilling life. I started exploring new interests, things I had always wanted to do but never had the time for. I took a painting class, joined a hiking club, and started volunteering at a local animal shelter. I reconnected with old friends, spent more time with my family, and rediscovered the simple pleasures of life. The anxiety didn't disappear overnight. It was still there, lurking in the shadows, but it no longer controlled me. I had learned to manage it, to cope with it, to prevent it from consuming me. I had learned to listen to my body, to recognize the warning signs, to take care of myself before I reached the breaking point. I started writing, pouring my experiences, my thoughts, and my feelings onto the page. It was a cathartic process, a way to make sense of what had happened to me, to share my story with others. I hoped that my story could help someone else who was struggling with burnout and anxiety, to let them know that they are not alone, that there is hope, that recovery is possible. I'm not entirely cured. Some days are still harder than others. The weight of past expectations sometimes feels like it's creeping back, the anxiety whispering insidious doubts. But now I recognize those moments for what they are, vestiges of an old, unhealthy pattern. I have tools now, strategies honed through therapy and self-reflection. I breathe. I meditate, even for just 5 minutes. I reach out to my support network. I remember what truly matters. One of the most profound shifts has been redefining what success means to me. It's no longer about climbing the corporate ladder or accumulating accolades. It's about living a life of purpose, connection, and well-being. It's about making a positive impact on the world, however small. It's about being present for the people I love. It's about taking care of myself, both physically and mentally. I found a new career path, one that is less stressful and more fulfilling. I work as a consultant, helping other companies create healthier work environments for their employees. It's ironic, perhaps, that I now advise others on how to avoid the very situation that nearly destroyed me. But it also feels deeply meaningful. I can use my experience to make a difference, to help prevent others from falling into the same trap. My relationship with my partner has blossomed. We communicate openly and honestly, supporting each other through thick and thin. We prioritize our relationship, making time for dates, for travel, for simply being together. I've also learned to embrace imperfection. I no longer strive for unattainable standards. I accept that I will make mistakes, that I will have bad days, that I am not perfect. And that's okay. It's more than okay, it's liberating. The anxiety still visits sometimes, a fleeting shadow on a sunny day. But I no longer fear it. I recognize it as a part of myself, a reminder of what I've been through. I acknowledge it, I accept it, and then I let it go. I am still tired sometimes. The chronic fatigue lingers, a constant companion. But it no longer controls me. I listen to my body. I rest when I need to. I prioritize my health. I have learned to say no, to set boundaries, to protect my energy. I am not the same person I was before. I am stronger, wiser, and more resilient. I have learned to value myself, to prioritize my well-being, to live a life that is more authentic and fulfilling. I am still a work in progress, but I'm moving in the right direction. And some days, when the sun is shining and I am surrounded by the people I love, and I feel a sense of peace and contentment wash over me, I realize that all the pain and struggle was worth it. I am grateful for the journey, for the lessons I have learned, for the person I have become. I am no longer too tired to move and too anxious to rest. I have found a new balance, a new way of being, a new life. And it is beautiful. Thank you so much for listening. If you've made it this far, I want you to know you are not alone. Whatever you're carrying, whatever you're feeling, your story matters. If this journey resonated with you, please take a moment to share it with someone who might need it too. Sometimes, healing begins with simply hearing that it's okay to slow down, to ask for help, and to choose yourself. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing for more true stories of resilience, growth, and healing, because your well-being is not a luxury. It's your foundation. Take care of yourself. You deserve peace. You deserve rest. And you deserve a life that feels like your own. Until next time, be well.